Welcome back to New Day Northwest. Our next guest is one of the most sought-after young composers in the country. At just 26 years old, Quinn Mason's symphonies have been played at concert halls across the U.S. His fifth symphony and latest gets its world premiere this Saturday in Shoreline. Please welcome Quinn Mason and Harmonia Orchestra director William White, who will be conducting Quinn's latest new work. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So, you know, a lot of us, when we hear the term composer, we all think of an old white guy with a powdered wig, right? You're 26 years old. How did you get your start in this?
It started when I was 10, actually. I took a lot of public school music classes, and I started with piano, actually. And I liked to improvise a lot on piano when I was younger. I never practiced. And because I improvised a lot, I created a lot, and that's how I kind of got my start in creating music.
That's fascinating. Would you like to describe your work? I mean, how would you do it? And is it stereotypical classical music? How would you kind of put it in that?
No, actually, so at this point I've been doing classical music for about 16 years, so half my life. And at this point it's gotten a lot personal to me. It's been a personal journey to find my voice, and now I'm starting to write about subjects that really reflect the human experience, the soul experience of making music. And now I write music that is very personal, not only to me, but I hope to audience members that hear it, or orchestra members that play it, and hopefully they have some sort of soul connection to it.
You know, I think that's the thing that's so fascinating about classical music, and this is what I try to tell to my children when we listen, is that there's no words, but the rise and the fall. I mean, it does take you on an emotional journey. Your newest symphony is called Harmonia. It's your fifth symphony. Mm-hmm. It's also the name of the orchestra that William directs. Mm-hmm. How did you two start working together?
Well, you know, I'm a composer as well. I'm a conductor, and when Quinn was a very young man, probably, 18 or 19 years old, he found me just on the internet and sent me an email and said, you know, look, I've been writing this music. I'm trying to get people to listen to it. Would you give it a listen? Tell me what you think. And it wasn't the first time that I had received a communication like that from somebody quite young in this industry. But when I listened to Quinn's music, it was something very different. The music just had this power, and also a respect for the history of classical music, and a unique voice, and something that was coming out that I hadn't heard from anybody else. So we developed an online friendship, and then in 2020, I invited him to Seattle to conduct Harmonia's orchestra in one of his own pieces. And that's how we started. So you just mentioned kind of a little bit about his music, the uniqueness of it. What else do you love about Quinn's music? Oh, Quinn's music is very special, I would say. It's he unites a romantic sensibility with a contemporary language. So I never know exactly what people think about classical music. Mm-hmm. I mean, to the extent that they think about it at all. But like you say, some people probably think of it as something very fusty, something old-fashioned, mm-hmm. right? And then some people, I think, if they think about modern classical music, they might be thinking of something kind of abstract, abstruse, something that's kind of hard to get around, right? Something that's kind of grating. Yeah. I mean, there's, you know, that whole association. But Quinn's music is not that. It is really, it tells the big picture of humanity and human emotion. It's very easy to connect to. Mm-hmm. You know, it has singable, beautiful melodies that you can really glom onto. And yet, it still sounds new. So that's what I find so interesting about his music, is that combination of elements. I'm ashamed to say, I was mentioning that I made my children listen to classical music, and I do, because I think it is such a powerful experience, but I'm ashamed to say that I'm listening to Berlioz. I mean, I'm not ashamed, but I'm saying that no shame in Berlioz.
I didn't think to look for new classical music. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is the challenge in bringing that to the public?
Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, I mean, one of the things I do now I freelance as a composer and mm-hmm. conductor around the country, and I visit orchestras all across the country, and I make it a point to go into their communities and see how classical music is being taught in the schools, mm-hmm. and also in community centers. And because really outreach is very important, and in order, I think, to develop a really good appreciation of classical music is to start very, very young, mm-hmm. and, you know, teach it even at the elementary level, even at the middle school level. But I know this for a fact because I'm a product of that outreach. My very first classical music concert I attended at age 10. It was the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. It was Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf, and it was Sting narrating. I remember that very clearly.
Oh, wow.
And that's something I never forgot because it really made me fall in love with the orchestra at a very young age. And that was because the Dallas Symphony bused public school kids into the concert hall.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
The concert is this Saturday. What can people expect?
Well, they're going to hear, of course, as we've been talking about, the premiere of this brand new symphony, which is about 22-something minutes. About the length of a sitcom, you know?
Yeah.
What we've done with this is we worked very hard with Quinn to pair it with music that that he's interested in, that has influenced him, and that, you know, you'll hear kind of echoes throughout the concert between these different pieces. So we're going to hear some music by William Grant Still, who was called the Dean of African American Composers in the 20th century, and he always said, well, why don't they call Aaron Copland the Dean of White Composers? Quinn is going to conduct one of William Grant Still's pieces. And then we're going to hear another symphony by a Finnish composer named Jean Sibelius, kind of one of the greats of the early 20th century. And this is somebody who Quinn was very inspired by in his own musical language.
Yeah.
So 2 symphonies and then intermission cookies and coffee and stuff.
Cookies and
you get to meet Quinn. I mean, yeah.
That'll be wonderful. I hope you have a wonderful night. By the way, before I let you go, where can people hear your music?
I have a website, masonianmusic.com.
Okay.
And I also post a lot of career stuff on Instagram, and my handle is Quinn Mason Composer.
All right, we'll keep an eye on you. Thank you both for being here. And of course,
you.
you can see Harmonia Orchestra and Chorus perform music by Quinn Mason and others this Saturday, March 11th at Shorecrest Performing Arts Center in Shoreline, and it will truly be a treat. And while music